Thank you very much for giving me this chance to talk. I just came out of the hospital. I'm working in the renal department. I'm originally from Jordan. We live nearby Palestine. We know how much they suffer. I've heard myself as a colleague and as a human for Dr. Abu Safiyah, what happened with him in the last 2 years. He was like abandoned, and he was not given a chance to see a lawyer. He was not given a chance to have his human rights. So I think we all here stand by the human rights, so that if we don't have our human rights, we can defend our human rights. I really appreciate what you are doing. I came from a place where it's really there, a lot of war, a lot of conflicts there. But whatever happened, we should stand by the human rights. I appreciate the time you give to me and your time as well here. Solidarity, keep things up. And myself, I signed a petition. I hope that my colleagues as well will sign this and we take it to this stage. I appreciate everything you're doing, and deep from my heart and from the people there as well. Thank you very much.
Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay, I just want to say a couple of things. I've written something down just to tell people why we're here, because I think there's quite a few new faces and I'm not sure how much people actually know about it. So Dr. Abu Safiyah risked his life for his patients. He didn't fight, he didn't carry a weapon, he carried a stethoscope. He saw his son killed by the IDF in front of him, and still he stayed to care for patients right up to the end. And he was the last to leave Kamal Adwan Hospital. And now he's abducted and in prison since December 24, which is a long time. He's been denied care, denied medication, any contact with his family. He's lost loads of body weight. He suffers from scabies, denied medicine, healthcare and legal counsel. And the last visit from his solicitor said he was unrecognisable due to beatings, losing consciousness, and his health is critical. And his last words were, "This is the last time you will see me. They have brought me here to kill me." Now he's seen as a symbol of Palestinian resilience and humanity. It's this spirit that Israel wants to crush. And it's about destroying the skills of the wonderful surgeons that are really needed now, to rebuild Gaza and the future for people there. So we stand in solidarity with all the medics in the Israeli prisons and demand their release. The international community, human rights organisations such as Amnesty are demanding his release, and all the medics held in violation of international law. There have been protests around the world. I've seen some in the USA, in Italy, even Channel 4 actually had a decent report on it. So there's still hope. But Dr. Safiyah for me stands for everything that is good and caring about our humanity and for other people. And the Israeli settler colonial regime is the total opposite. It's about crushing any resilience by any means, intimidation, torture, and the list goes on. So it's up to the Palestine movement to continue, to not give up, to let people know what's still happening in Gaza. The BBC was outrageous. I don't know if anyone saw it. UN officials condemned them for its scandalous bloody coverage of Dr. Safiyah and the false charges. But despite propaganda, despite the constant media distortions, last week the Gov poll showed 50% of people in this country agreed Israel is committing genocide, and only 17% thought it was not. So let's keep steadfast, as the Palestinians do. Let's continue to do things like we are here in Dorset. We've got a good lineup of speakers, and we have to continue the fight and keep the world to know that one day Palestine will be free, and hopefully we will save Dr. Abu Safiyah before anything serious happens to him. Okay, so I'm going to Palestine! Palestine!
I do apologise. Up to 3 p.m. today, I thought it was Thursday, so I was planning to write this tonight. But luckily, I've got the right day of the week and I have put something together. So I would just, before I start quickly as well, I'd just like to say I do speak to a few people in the West Bank, and I know it's really hard to keep going, but actually one of the biggest changes they said against all this violence, they really feel that everyone in the world knows where Palestine is, and that is, even if it's just one win for Palestinians, you turning up and keep turning up and keep talking about it, keep sharing it, it does give them hope, and hope is ultimately the thing that will end occupation. So Dr. Abu Safiyah is being held indefinitely in Raqqa prison, a prison that was closed in 1980 because it was deemed inhumane. Built underground, prisoners are denied even the sight of sunlight. It was reopened under the orders of the current Israeli government to detain Palestinians. A government already seen to have participated in the abuse and torture of Palestinian prisoners. Thousands of Palestinians, including Dr. Abu Safiyah, have been detained without ever being charged. During his detention, he has been held in solitary confinement without explanation. He has suffered repeated assaults by prison guards, and his health continues to deteriorate. Why is he there? Why was he abducted? His crime was trying to save Palestinian lives during a genocide. After the Israeli military attacked the hospital with drones and tanks, medical staff were ordered to evacuate. Dr. Abu Safiyah stayed behind to care for his patients who could not be moved. He was the last doctor to leave, and as he exited, he was detained by the IDF in a military tank. 18 months on, Israel has failed to produce a single piece of evidence to any crime he or the hospital have committed. So why are we here today, when so many of us, I'm sure, would like to be at the sea for a swim or in a shady spot? Because like him, we've made a choice. We have to make a choice. He was forced to choose between his own freedom and his duty of care to his patients, to preserve his humanity or surrender it to those who were determined to crush it. He chose humanity, and today we face our own choice. As our government continues to erode our freedoms, as international institutions fail to take meaningful actions, as surveillance expands to suppress dissident, as attacks on the rights of Palestinians are accompanied by attacks on our own democratic freedoms, we must decide where we stand. We either fight for our humanity or we lose it. We either defend our freedom or we surrender it. The struggle of Palestinian freedom is also a struggle for the values and the rights that belong to all of us. As governments, our government, as councils, our council here, and these institutions continue to wash their hands of responsibility and turn away from their own complicity, we must raise our voice even louder. We must campaign harder and organise more efficiently. And remind them we will not abandon our patients, our colleagues, our communities, here or anywhere in the world.
Yes.
So please sign the petition, keep campaigning, and let's free Palestine.
I think today Unison Daughter Health Branch brings a message of solidarity to Dr. Abu Safiyah. Health workers in the UK had to face, the challenges of COVID. They face the challenges of a hospital that isn't designed for climate change. But we don't face being taken from our hospitals, incarcerated and tortured for being a health worker. We don't face being bombed in our hospitals. And I think we stand with our health workers in Palestine who have faced that ultimate challenge to put their own lives after the lives of their patients, knowing the risk. And actually, Dr. Abu Safiyah really stood in that incredible tradition. He's not the only prisoner. There are 9,500 Palestinians still in prison today in the most appalling conditions. There are 83 health workers still in prison. Initially, there was 400 health workers held. Not to mention, like the group of paramedics who were actually murdered going to an accident. And the only reason that came out was they actually found the mobile phone footage. There are 350 children held illegally in Palestine. And what I want to say is that Andy Burnham says Labour didn't get it right. My God. Do you know what? That must be the understatement of the century. You've killed hundreds of thousands of men, women and children, and you say, we didn't get it quite right. What a shame. What a shame. So, actually, I would say to Andy Burnham, you've got a chance to get it right now. Yeah. Words are of no use to people in Palestine. Actions are what count. And that's why we're taking action. So I want to give a message to Andy Burnham. And this is the message. The first thing you need to do immediately is call for the freedom of Dr. Abu Safiyah. Yeah. and for that matter, all illegally held Palestinian prisoners. You need to stop calling Palestine Action a terrorist organisation. You need to free the Fulton 25. Yes. And last, but not least, well actually not last, you need to stop arming Israel. These things are within your power, not someone else's, they're within your power. And finally I'd say, stop persecuting health workers for wearing a solidarity badge. You can wear one for Ukraine, and so you should. You should be able to wear one for Ukraine. But you should be able to show your solidarity as a health worker with Palestine by wearing a badge or a lanyard, by expressing your opinions within the BMA or the trade unions. We know that people face the loss of their jobs and being struck off for their solidarity with Palestine. And I want to end by saying, as long as Dr. Safiyah and others are held and tortured as illegal hostages in Israeli jails, no one is free. Free, free!
Hi everyone. Like I haven't got a speech organised for tonight. I'm just going to speak from a personal experience that just happened to me, without crying, and why we should never become numb to the people in Gaza. So 2 weeks ago, my 18-year-old son was taken critically ill into Dorchester County Hospital. The doctors that saved his life were like Dr. Abu Safiyah. He had 6 blood transfusions, and he wouldn't have had those transfusions if he had been in Gaza. Where would I have taken him if he was so ill? Imagine Dorchester County Hospital was gone. Imagine Dr. Safiyah was gone. Imagine the ambulance drivers and the paramedics that brought my son to hospital were gone. The fear I felt that my son was going to die was overwhelming, and no other parent should have to go through that, but they do. And I sat in the garden at Dorchester County Hospital, and I thought of every single parent in Gaza who had nowhere place to take their children. And I thought of every single healthcare worker, especially now Dr. Abu Safiyah, a man who's dedicated his life to children, to the care of children. And all I really want to say is, I thank God that I wasn't born in Gaza, and I thank God for every fibre of me will never give up for the people of Palestine, for Dr. Abu Safiyah, and for every human being and every parent who's lost their child in Gaza. Thank you.
I don't know about anybody else, but there have been times recently where the world has felt pretty bleak. But local events like this serve as a reminder that when we come together, we do have a voice and we can work together towards meaningful change. We've all watched in horror for nearly 3 years now as Israel has continued to carry out its genocide of the Palestinian people, and we're bombarded every single day with sickening videos of people facing atrocities that are beyond our own comprehension, all while our government continue to fund and to make excuses for the Israeli state and persecute those who dare to speak out. This is an injustice that will shape a generation of activism. We are already seeing people come out in their masses, fighting for the liberation of Palestinian people, no matter what it may cost them. The response of governments worldwide has exposed the system for what it truly is, a greedy mechanism which prioritizes profits that can be made from arms sales over the lives of innocent people, and the continuation of violent colonial rule that we all seek to reject. As British people, whose government is so deeply intertwined with every single step of Israel's development, we need to fight with everything we have and stand for those detained and imprisoned internationally for standing with Palestine, and for the Palestinian people who remain remarkably strong and resilient in the face of evil. History is watching our every move, and we need to be loud
purposeful in our actions, and fight unapologetically for the liberation of Palestinian people. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Yeah, I suppose it's worth saying, the first thing I wanted to say is that, as Sam just said, I work in adult mental health north of here. I'm proud to say the branch I'm a member of Unison in, where I'm shop steward and vice chair, Wilson Avon branch. I'm proud to say we supported these guys here in Dorchester when they fought against privatisation. And just to say, I've got full backing from my branch to be here today. We'll be sending our branch banner and delegation on the Palestine demo on the 18th of July, and hopefully other people will be there as well. I think why, it's really important why, because I work in adult mental health, as I say. One of the key things, I work in a sort of specialist psychosis service, and one of the key things that we now know, the evidence base, is not about chemical imbalances in brains and things, it's much more about the link between psychosis and trauma. And actually, when we talk about trauma, what's going on now? As a health worker, I find it absolutely appalling that after the kidnapping and torture of Dr. Safiyah and the number of Palestinian health workers that have been killed, Lynn referenced the thing about the ambulance workers being shot dead. I don't know if people remember last year, they tried to bury the ambulance in the sand. Why would you do that unless what you knew you was doing was totally and utterly wrong? Something that additionally last year, Israeli special forces, you may remember in the West Bank, dressed up as health workers, went into a hospital in the West Bank and executed someone. Now, I can't think there's been an awful lot of crimes, but personally I can't think of anything worse. You know, as a health worker, I'm proud to, why do people become health workers? Because we want to support and help people and help get people better. They used it as an opportunity to execute people. That did mean, motivate me to think, that's it. I went round where I work, did a collection for medical aid for Palestine, and we raised a couple of £100 straight off. And the number of people that were supporting that, we're also able, I'm pleased to say, to be able to do a selfie with some of the doctors and some of my colleagues in our chief exec's office. He didn't notice it, but you know, with a big Palestine flag. So I'm really pleased that we were able to do that. But the thing that I find really appalling, as Lynn alluded to, is thanks to a report from John Mann, the government are now considering health workers should be banned from showing any support for Palestine in any way, shape or form. This is the same government that are prosecuting the 25 Filton for disrupting the weapons supply, and yet at the same time a government that is cutting health service jobs, cutting the NHS services. I'm not sure about around here, but the trust that I work for are currently engaged in looking at how they can lose approximately 10% of the workforce. Many acute trusts. Unison put out a thing earlier this year to say apparently about up to 30,000 jobs could go. Now, you know, I find that utterly scandalous. They're funding the private sector, they're funding the defence industry, and yet we don't have money apparently for health. That's why they come down heavily on people protesting. That's why, but incidentally, I will be putting more stickers on, you know, to say I absolutely do support the Palestinians, because as far as I'm concerned as a health worker, injury to one is an injury to all. I think we support everyone. And if they're whining about money, tax the wealthy, that's where it is.
Yes.
Hello, I'm really close. So, I'm Frank, I am a Unison steward here at DCH. I've been asked to speak today, so unfortunately I haven't got quite such a long and exciting speech. But one of the questions I get asked often when you see the Palestinian flag at Unison events is, what are you doing involved with that? And it's like, how can you not be involved with that? It's a healthcare worker. This Dr. Abu Safiyah is a healthcare worker, and we're a healthcare branch. It doesn't matter where you are in the world, healthcare workers deserve to be able to perform their tasks without fear of retribution. There's laws in place that you cannot put a Red Cross in a video game without lawyers coming after you. And yet Israeli forces bomb Red Cross and Red Crescent vehicles without any kind of consequence. It has to end, and that's why Unison supports Palestine in all things. And yeah, thank you very much.
There's a song which is sung which says, all the women, children and men of Palestine deserve to live. And the genocide has to end. And that words, I don't think words can really convey what's going on. and continues to go on. Israel's occupying 2/3 of Gaza and completely defying any humanity. I think the poison of Israeli racism is causing conflict around the world, but obviously in the countries surrounding Israel, they cause mayhem and death and continue to do so. And backed by America, but particularly the British legacy of actually creating the state of Israel and arming it and facilitating its development and cooperating in every act of Israeli aggression all the way through. There has to be complete sanctions against Israel in this country, and the world itself needs to sanction Israel by a total embargo. We have the history of what happened to South Africa, how it was kept going by the racists in Britain and British government in America. But when the overwhelming feeling of the world in movement in the world created a strong opposition, and the boycott movement really took hold, they abandoned the racist state of South Africa, and that is something we need to hold on to in these really bleak times. Salute to all of you, and particularly to Dr. Safiyah.
So, Samson, I'm branch secretary of Unison, the local government, so Dorset Council down the road. But we're also, Unison obviously covers health workers and all public sectors across the UK. And we stand for solidarity with the Palestinian people. And we have a saying in our union, and in every union, an injury to one, and Rich said it, is an injury to all. And that's not just for members in our workplaces, that is everyone, that's international, that's global. So I was just blown away actually, Suzanne, by your story and what's happened to your son, and I just wanted to give you a huge hug. And every day we've got workers in the health service that are here to look after us, to look after our fathers, our mothers, our children. And imagine, and we're trying to do that with limited resource, we've got nothing at the moment, you know, but imagine trying to do that in Gaza, where every other hospital that Dr. Safiyah was in, he was in the last hospital holding it up with children and patients that he was looking after. Now, as I was saying, that hospital was the last standing hospital. And actually what Dr. Safiyah did, he stood with his patients, and that's what any other medical professional would have done in that situation. They would have stood alongside and protected their patients. And his hospital was besieged, it was stripped of medicine, electricity and basic human dignity, and he refused to abandon the children and families who had nowhere else to turn. And he did, as I said, he did as any other medical professional would have done. And because of this, that was it's not even a crime, that was his crime in the eyes of the IDF, to protect people and patients and human rights. He was then faced with solitary confinement from 2024, lengthy interrogations and daily torture. His health is in grave danger and he may die at the hands of his captors. Now, medical neutrality is not a political opinion. It is international law. A hospital must be a sanctuary. A doctor must never be a target. Now, the government, no other government would ever get away with what the Israel government are doing and the IDF are doing. And world leaders are silent, including our own. And I did hear Andy Burnham's speech this morning about Gaza, and he said nothing. He didn't use the word genocide at all in his speech. This is a genocide, and I'm very clear in that, and Unison are very clear. We are witnessing a genocide in real life. Now, if our government and world leaders are silent, then we must become louder. We need to sign the petition, we need to campaign, we need to organise, and for Dorset Council, we need to divest our pension from those from anything that's going towards the Israeli government and arms. And we need to attend the demonstrations, which we're saying on the 18th of July. We must demand, and so from Dorchester to Gaza, we stand with you, Dr. Safiyah. We stand in solidarity. We call for your immediate release and the protection of all healthcare workers. and the immediate entry of medical aid, and to end the genocide. Thank you.
We stand with humanity, and we stand for humanity. In 1945, the world said never again. In 1948, the victims of that awful genocide started their own. 78 years later, with the complicit support of the colonial powers of Britain and the USA, Israel have continued this awful genocide, not only with bombs and arms, but also by severely restricting the supply of water, food, electricity and fuel to the people of Palestine. How inhumane is this? They have bombed the schools, they've bombed the universities, and we know they have bombed the hospitals. They have imprisoned healthcare workers. So in the future, even the lame and all of those who are obviously going to be suffer with mental health problems are not going to be able to get the support that they need. This Israel government, this far-right Israel government, has courted the support of far-right politicians in this country. Tommy Robinson, a visitor to Israel. So all I would like to mention today is not only the action on the 23rd at Elbit Systems in Bristol, where we're all going to go there and try and shut down the arms factory there for the day. But also, very importantly, on the 31st of August, there is going to be a Unity festival, which is going to be a celebration of all of the organisations that a lot of us are involved in, showing the far right what humanity is capable of. Because humanity is capable of a lot more than what our governments are showing at the moment. So I oppose genocide and I support action in Palestine.
Hi everyone, I'm the sister act of the first, the entry speech, and the lower grade activist, but still make some effort. Really lovely speech, Suzanne. That was just incredible to listen to. And as some people here may know, we lost our father a year ago today, and it would have been lovely to see it, for him to have seen a liberated, free Palestine. So he didn't get to see it, but hopefully that we will. And the people that are left behind are going to have to be the people who preserve that culture and that story. Because as we're seeing through social media, through the mainstream media, the story is actually being whitewashed and erased. We're having these AI influencers tell a different story. We are having paid people tell a different story. So we have to make sure that we constantly speak truth to power, and we also bring in new people and the next generation and re-educate them on what is actually happening in Palestine and what it means to preserve a culture. So one element of genocide is the erasure of culture. So it's not just the erasure of the people, it's the erasure of the infrastructure, the buildings, the art, the history, and that's why it's so important for us to put on the Festival of Palestinian Culture in Dorset. There are other festivals going on for Palestine all the time, but it is important that we have one in this area which has not traditionally stood with Palestine. So that's happening on the 22nd of August. I can see some actionists who are going to be there doing readings. We are having a Tatriz workshop from one of the best Palestinian artists who is being shown in the V&A. She is coming down to do a long Tatriz workshop. We've got a Palestinian dancer who's going to do a Dabka workshop. We've got children activities, we've got learning activities, we've got food, which is always really important. So first up, make sure you come, but also
equally as important, tell your friends and bring your friends, and make sure that you know what's happening on the schedule and you've booked tickets for any ticketed events, because some events are limited and tickets have been started to sell. And share it on your socials, and to tell whoever you know and you don't know about the preservation of Palestinian culture here in Dorset. This has been a wonderful display of solidarity for Dr. Hussam Abu Safiyah. We can't do much, but we can do something, and I'm so glad we're all here on a Friday evening. Thank you so much, everyone, and as always, Free Palestine! Free Palestine!
Thanks, Suzanne. First of all, Samaya and Jamila, condolences on this anniversary of Issa's death today. I had the privilege of meeting Issa several times, and his conversations were fantastic, and I really learnt a lot from talking to him. A really gentle and kind man that you'd ever hope to meet. So condolences today. Look, I want to thank everyone, first of all, not only for coming today, but for now moving on towards 3 years, the determination and the resilience in building the Palestine Solidarity movement here in Dorset, locally, and indeed nationally. It's a historic movement, and we cannot underestimate the fractures that it's caused across the world amongst those who support Israel, arm it, and are supporting the genocide. But I do want to address, what do we do from here? You see, I think that poll that Sam referred to is incredibly important. 50% of the population believe Israel's committing genocide. Only 17% disagree, and the rest are don't knows. I wouldn't dismiss the don't knows, by the way. You see, I think that poll says two things to me. We need to convince more of the 50% to join the movement and build the movement. And we need to convince more of the don't knows of the real cause of Palestine and what is happening in Gaza. And Andy Burnham's been referred to. See, I think if you look at the election result for Burnham, which was overwhelming, I think there will be people who are hoping that there'll be some change, that there'll be something different. Now, quite apart from the fact of his understatements, what did he indicate yesterday? One, that there would be sanctions on individuals or West Bank settlements. This is an evasion. It's an evasion because the genocide is rooted in the very structure of the state of Israel itself. It's not about individuals, and it's not just about West Bank settlements, horrific though they are. And finally, he said he's appalled, and that Israel and that those responsible for the suffering of innocent people in Gaza should be held accountable. But then he says it's not for politicians to do that. It's for the international courts. Well, I'm sorry, it is for the politicians, and not only for politicians, it's for the future Prime Minister of Britain to stop arming genocide. And that brings me finally to what I think we should do. You see, I don't think this is about patience and saying time will be on our side, although I think there's a sense in which time is on our side. If we make it, if we make sure it is. I think it's great that we've had so many trade union speakers today. I think we need to build in the health service, in the local councils, in workplaces, to stop Palantir in its tracks. We need to start to build the networks that can disrupt the supply chains for the tech that's being used in Israel and Gaza, and to disrupt the arms supply chains. And that's why the demonstration and the coach we've organised on the 23rd of July, we've got leaflets with QR codes, you can sign up today, is so important. We are going, it's a national demo called by BSC, we are going to Elbit Systems in Bristol, and we want to begin to shut it down. And not only Elbit, we want to shut down the whole system, the war machine, the structure of genocide and war crimes. And that's not going to be done by politicians, it's going to be done by us. So we should take heart from what we've achieved, and it's down to us.